Welcome to the Leftover Podcast, and we're heading into season 2, which many will say, and I will say it, the best season of television ever. I will fight you. Well, you guys, these three other guys will fight you if you disagree with me. All right, because I'm old, I'm brittle, I can't be fine. I can't break a hip. I have hip replacement surgery. But seriously, such a great season of television, and we're here to talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyone disagree with me?
Nope.
I mean, I would have to think about it before I just made that statement because Juliet's not anywhere in it. So,
but they thought of her.
But it is absolutely terrific.
I couldn't wait to start. And well, let's start the recap. Mm-hmm. Laura says, I do not disagree. This season was incredible. She knew I'd hunt her down and knock her out. But seriously, I think we talked about it before at the end. Maybe it was the last time we recorded about how this episode starts. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching going, all right, what the hell are we watching? Yeah. What is going on with this thing? Because you have a cave people, I'm assuming. They're in a cave, right? And the pregnant cave woman has to go out and take a leak, right?
She has to depart the cave.
You have to depart the cave. And I'm like going, okay, I don't get what's going on here. I don't, and then Randy said this might be his favorite episode.
Yeah, Randy's a good guy.
But she goes out, and then we have like the earth moves, right? I'm assuming earthquake. They didn't have fracking back then, so I'm assuming it was an earthquake. But all her people are trapped behind the rocks, and then her water breaks, and then she has to have the baby. And talk about, you forget, I mean, I've never had a baby, all right? I don't know the pain of having a baby, but, you see it today where they have to have, shots. And I'm not criticizing women that have had babies. I probably couldn't do it. I couldn't handle the pain. But she not only did she suck it up, she delivered her own baby.
Mm-hmm. And then bit into that umbilical cord.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah.
So okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, it was about something you didn't mention yet. I was going to do that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But I just thought it was just such an amazing scene. And again, watching it going, what is going on here? Mm-hmm. Now I know because I've seen it before. But at the time I'm going, did I click on the wrong link? Yeah. What's going on here? This doesn't ring a bell. But anyway, you were going to say something, Ethan.
Well, I was going to say, I may not talk about it next week, but we're here. I'll talk about it now. It's we start off with that new song, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. We're different vibe all over the place, and this episode is just hitting you over the head, letting you know that you're watching a different show.
Right. And you can see, okay, we've mentioned this before, so I'll riff off it. I don't know how many minutes go by before we actually see the characters from the first season. It's incredible amount of risk taking by Lindelof and his team.
Right.
To throw all this stuff, right? And just to completely knock anybody who's watching off balance, including us four who've watched this numerous times before.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're saying, Randy was saying it's his favorite episode television maybe on this season. There is no more rewarding rewatch episode in TV than the first episode of the second season of The Leftovers.
Well, I'm going to jump on what Eckhart said too, but the episode is so good, and like Randy said, the episode's so good, and like you just said, everyone's saying that you forget about the characters from the season before.
Well,
I mean, anyone who paid attention in the off season, we were worried that the show was going to come back. It came back, and we knew that some of the characters were coming back. Mm-hmm. But the episode is so damn good that you're like going, I don't care that they're not there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if that makes sense. I mean, I love the main characters, but like you're saying, they did take a big. Now, if that had been if that had been a terrible episode and poorly written and poorly acted and just everything was bad, then they might have been done.
And I really was thinking, the main thing I was thinking about as I'm watching this episode and obviously remembering how these pieces fit together is, like, how did I'm kept thinking about how Lindelof and his team approached this and said, like, okay, we know where we're gonna go, but how about for this first episode? Like, and these are, these new characters we're introducing. Not only are we going to spend most of our time on them, but we're even going to have a preamble that may or may not have something to do with this bigger story.
Right.
So, okay, you're going to write that. Show me what you come up with.
Yeah, I just big chance they took, but they nailed it.
Yeah.
They just nailed it right. Because I remember I go, they're going to Texas. That's how I was during the break. I was like, all right, we'll see how this goes.
But let's get back to we'll call it cave woman story, right?
Yeah, but go ahead.
Because we should continue to play that out in the sense that
it's important to the story.
It'd be nice for everyone, like after their first viewing of that entire arc, which of course after you said the delivery, what happens next? She has to feed the baby. And she follows the hawk, grabs the eggs.
But I wanted to say too, she's in the water washing herself, but there's also it almost looked like she baptized the baby,
right?
Because she takes the water in her hand, and
right.
I'm not a priest, but the way she dribbled on his forehead, their forehead, it looked like she was baptizing it. Mm-hmm. Now I'm sure that was done intentionally.
I totally missed that. I did miss that. I was focusing on something else. But.
She just trickles the water out of her hand onto the forehead. And I go, yeah, it was probably just her washing the baby off, but I think it was more to give us something to look at and talk about. Like I said, she sees the hawk and she sees smoke. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, the others are over there.
It's her first realization that there's other people alive,
right?
She just, to her whole family group dynamic or whatever, they all departed,
right?
Essentially,
exactly.
And she's probably like, why was I spared? She doesn't know what an earthquake is,
and she would have it worse than Nora, wouldn't she? Because she actually lost more people than Nora.
Yeah, that's a good point.
She does have the baby, so she does have someone.
But then, but now Nora has a baby, Lily.
Yes.
But imagine being so focused on you have to take care of the brand newborn baby that when it's raining, you don't have time to find or to look around for shelter. You just have to sit there with the baby, and life sucks.
Yeah.
You're just trying to survive.
And this may be like a really dark take on it. But like I said earlier, I was focusing on something else, and I was focusing on the hawk. Mm-hmm. I don't know what type of bird it is. Is it a hawk?
I was saying hawk. It looked like we have hawks around here. It looked like a hawk.
I'm like hawk or whatever with my accent. Crow, whichever one makes me sound more educated, we'll go with that bird. So the hawk or what is the eagle? So I was focusing on the hawk, and if you notice, so was she. Mm-hmm. And I thought that kind of symbolized hope for her, like, I can carry on and things like that. And then at the end, I was like, wow, this is really dark, because she looks up before she dies and sees the hawk again, and it's circling again instead of like leading, her away to find shelter and safety. I feel like she's understanding in the last few moments of her life that she's like, oh no, that I'm probably going to be eaten off of, the bird's probably going to eat me or whatever. Right. And I thought that was just really kind of sad after everything she went through.
Right.
Because I thought her baby was going to be eaten by the bird as well.
Yeah.
True. But I mean,
Rosa is probably a vulture. Now we have both here.
Okay.
And I don't know. They both are similar in the way they fly. So.
Have you guys heard of the Wilhelm scream? What that is? Okay, I think do you guys, Eckhart and Jack,
No, I've never heard.
It's like a famous scream that they have in a sound bank that they try to put all movies. Star Wars has it. All George Lucas puts it in every one of his movies, that kind of thing. Steven Spielberg uses it a lot.
It's in Titanic too, I think.
I think this is the second most used sound is that bird screeching. Mm-hmm. And it's it's a famous sound. This one, it's
okay.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So right.
That's a Wilhelm bird.
Well, I'm curious to hear what Ethan's take on this entire arc is. But the thing I focused on the hawk as well, but to me it was more about almost like they're showing us that since prehistoric times, people have looked for meanings in things that might be completely random.
Absolutely.
Because she sees the hawk, and they really focus in on that right before the tremors and right before the departure. And I was thinking about something that Jack said many times about how the baby's eyes look skyward before the departure in the first scene of the first season, right?
Yep.
And like you pointed out, Caleb, like she sees the hawk again right before she passes away, and then follows the hawk the same way that I guess Matt followed the pigeons, right?
Yeah.
So they're really showing, like, I mean, they might not be doing this, but I'm assuming they're doing this because it's Lindelof that the statement he's making is like, since prehistoric times, people found meaning in things that are probably completely random.
Kind of like us watching the show.
Absolutely.
Like I said, was she baptized? We're looking for things that may not be there, but in our minds, we're making it there. I do like that go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say that I think that we need to take a moment to just be like, what love a mother showed her child.
Yeah.
Like that is the top of parent, you should be and strive to be and all that. But for her to just go through all of that for her child, not knowing if it was even going to pan out for them,
right.
I think to me, that makes her just one of the best character, one of the great characters on the show. And we see her for, 5 minutes.
Unlike Lori.
Right. So here we have an example of a good mom. But I also think it's interesting that the baby ends up being kind of adopted because somebody else has to take care of it.
Well, it's almost similar to what Nora, that she was. But she goes up to get the eggs, does her Rocky impression, and then as she hears the snake.
And I have a panic attack.
I was like, oh my God, not a snake. I don't like snakes.
It was CGI, I think.
Yeah. But like we said, her first instinct is to go down and save the baby. But in the process, she gets bit.
Yeah.
You can see it and go, she's not long for this world. And that's when she goes and lays on, she crosses the water, lays on the rocks. And that's where we see her looking up at the hawk. And she's got to be thinking she's trying to survive. She's trying to stay alive because she has to stay alive to say, like we said, she doesn't know that there's possibly anybody left. And if she dies, the baby has no chance.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Here again, we have like what I'll start referring to as from season 1, the double departure, which is, as we learned from Kevin, he said, after the departure, the rest of his family started departing one by one.
Right.
So she's there, like feeling herself depart, knowing that the baby's going to be alone after the rest of the family departed already.
Right. And there's nothing and I just think the acting was great too in the filming because you're sitting there, you feel what she's feeling. You know that she's thinking, I can't die. I have to stay alive. But she dies. And again, she sees the hawk and probably thinking the hawk's going to want some revenge for stealing the eggs.
But it's like you can see how like already at this point in time, like they've already dialed it up on the emotional scale another notch.
Yeah.
With complete strangers.
But again, that's what we talked about earlier, how they took such a huge chance. I mean, not only did you start with new characters in Texas, you started with a whole new story. I mean, a whole new century. I mean, it was a beginning of time type thing. And you're like going, but it was so well done. You got involved in the story. So hats off to the Lindelof and his crew.
I know in the writer's room how the germ of the thing is they were talking about if they're going to do a previously on, and Tom Perrotta goes, well, how previously do you want to go?
Really?
Yeah. And that's where it started. So, I mean, that was like a really interesting
I will say that this is an instance where they show and don't tell.
Well, that's because they can't talk yet.
Right. Well, yeah. And I think it's just like an entire metaphor that they're like, we have to film the entire thing because it's just that great of an idea.
The only other note I have for it is Fussy Baby kind of looks like Jack.
It did. Yeah, I can't argue. And that's how I fuss. I cry a lot. Rose says, I think the baby was hungry. It probably was.
Just like Jack.
Well,
Sure.
she could well, here's a stupid question. Could she breastfeed the baby if she had the venom in her?
Oh God.
Too much.
I just thought about that because the
Would
venom's
she
in her.
know that though? She wouldn't know.
Yeah, and she tried so hard and failed. Like they say, quote unquote, it takes a village, and her village is gone.
Right.
And so there's no possible way she would be able to do it. And this other woman comes, and she doesn't get to see the other woman. She doesn't know the other woman took her baby.
Rose said no. She was talking about the vulture being hungry. I don't think the vulture was going to breastfeed though. I could be wrong.
What's so
You
sad
haven't
is
seen
this
the last
happens-
unicorn. What? No.
This happens in real life too. I mean, people die and they don't have the last words that they wanted to say, or they're not with their loved one, or what. I mean, we've seen this as a country just in the past year. But like, I feel like this is a great example of how sometimes really screwed up things happen, and there is no closure for it, and you have no answers, and that's part of what the show is about. But in this woman's case, she had no answers and knew it, and then died. Which makes it that much more tragic. But it is still a beautiful metaphor because the baby does go on to live.
Yeah, but I did want to go to another thing that they did I thought was brilliant is they show her laying there as the other woman walks away with the baby, and they just pan over to the water.
Brilliant.
I mean, it doesn't go. There isn't a swoosh sound or they just go from her story to the other new story, and I go, that is brilliant.
Yeah.
With the music, so you're actually watching The Leftovers.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. That's just a reminder. And then it felt, Jack, like there was an episode of The Broadcast that happened in the water there.
Oh, because it's three girls talking, and then Evie goes out and she jumps in the water.
That's she's the Colleen of the group.
Maybe no comment from Ethan.
Let's see. Let's see. Y'all have an inside joke. How absolutely wonderful for the both of you. I believe is what Charlie tells Jack and Kate in season 1 of Lost.
He does.
She says, "Ask Jack
plane.
about his tattoos." Yeah.
Yeah, when they go to the plane, right?
Yeah.
Well, the three girls are swimming. They come across Dr. Goodhart. That's a great name, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's measuring the water. And you're not supposed to take the water. It's illegal to take the water.
Yeah.
Yet they take the water. And Evie's kind of flirting with the guy, just kind of joking with him. But then the girls go home, and Evie takes a container of water back with her, and they're driving back, and there's no sound in the car.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no, and we find out why, don't we? Later on.
Yeah. I'm not speaking because there's so much here that it will be a spoiler if I say.
Okay, so I do remember that because there was a theory there, and then it was like, okay, we do find out why there was no.
And the spoiler section is going to be a little different for this because if I tick down everything at the end of the episode, it's going to be another hour and a half, right? So I have a different way of doing it when we get there.
Randy says Dr. Goodhart reminded him of Doc Arntz.
Well, I wish he ended the same way.
Well, we don't know if he did or not.
That's true. Sorry, spoiler.
We don't know. He comes home. Her brother's waiting for her. He starts pouring the water into tubes. I don't know what he's going to. At this point, we know if he's going to test the water. Their dad is sleeping, and John is a sound sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
He can just sleep. And then they finally wake him up, and they're sitting at the table, and there's bacon talk. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing better than when you're talking about bacon. Am I right?
Yep.
And thing to talk about.
We've at this point in time, like roughly 10 minutes have gone by, right, in the show.
Yeah.
And we still don't know where we are.
No.
And
no, we don't know. I think we know we're in Texas because they said they're moving. Everything's shifting to Texas, right?
But let's assume that nobody saw that trailer.
Right.
If you just from what you saw so far, you wouldn't know where you are.
Exactly.
And the only clue that you have of like things being off are the fact that you're not supposed to take any water, and that the brother is putting it into test tubes.
Right. And then, but then John hears a cricket.
I love that.
And he just goes, everything stops because he has to get that cricket.
Yeah.
He's got to get that cricket. But then you see we find out it's Michael. At this point, we don't know his name. Mm-hmm. Not till the end. But Michael is driving down the street, and there's a crack in the street.
I love this. That's
sealed off. Now, this reminds me of the crack that Kevin is looking at his house when Lori comes up. And nice. The crack is never explained. And we also have, in this one, obviously he's hit the wall, but there's a crack in the logo behind me. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. And we're full on, like, if you're following it, the book is done, right? And you just know that, like, we are on full Lost watch here, right?
Right.
So there's throwing everything at you. There's numbers this time. There's numbers everywhere this time. There's little spats of things everywhere. It's kind of overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, just from the names, Michael, Evie, Evangeline, Isaac, or whatever. It was just like, yeah, I picked up on that.
Did have a question though, because that crack that they had blocked off, I'm assuming plexiglass or some kind of glass that couldn't be penetrated. Does it light up at night? Because if you're driving at night, you're not going to be, even during the day. How do you not run into it?
I feel sure after however many years this has been after the departure that everybody in town knows where that's at.
Okay. I didn't think about it, but now that you're asking, I'm sure there's street lights, but I think the tours of the town,
they would know.
They would not be there in the evening.
Okay. Right. All right. I just, if someone's texting and driving, they're not paying attention. They're going to slam right into it.
But
true. Yeah.
What's wonderful about the scene is, and I'm sure this is where you said that we see that crack on the street while he's riding his bike, right?
Right.
And he continues riding his bike, right?
Yeah, it doesn't phase him. So you're saying Caleb, but make sure they all know where it's at.
Oh.
And then doesn't he pass the woman?
Yeah, there's a woman in a wedding dress watering her grass.
And then he arrives in what seems like the center of town, right?
Right, and there's like a tower that says Miracle on it, right?
And that's the first time we see the mention of the town.
We see Moses sitting on top of the tower.
Yeah, we see Moses on top of the tower. We see, Miracle. It says Miracle.
Right.
And what I love about those three things is it was a great way of just zooming out to show where we actually are.
Right.
And
it's really amazing.
And to put it like, and this is what I thought was so brilliant, was the contrast between something that's those three things that we just mentioned: the crack in the street with the plexiglass, the woman watering in the gown, and that pillar with a Moses on top, right? And it's just totally normal for Michael, right?
Yeah.
And juxtaposed with the scene that we had before, where life is so normal that they're fighting over bacon and he needs to find the cricket because the most important thing to him is to find that cricket.
Well, because it's irritating.
Yeah, but it's just like juxtapose that normality against just like the craziness of just that, 10-minute bike ride, right?
Right.
So.
But it's just like, I know when we're just like, why is that woman wearing a wedding dress watering the grass?
And that's what Ethan talked about in terms of like hitting you over the head with the Lostisms.
Right.
But I think, the bigger point to me is of these two major scenes is to show you can have complete craziness and complete normalcy inhabit the same like material plane, right?
Right.
We're in the same world as the sudden departure, right?
Yeah.
So basically, that's what the whole thing is going on, and we'll get into what John does to keep that in order.
Yeah.
Well, I think season 1 took a look at people who had lost, people in the departure, and then this season or in this episode especially, you're like, okay, these people didn't lose anybody and nobody had a problem, and they're still acting whack,
Right.
So
yeah,
because nothing is normal.
Exactly.
So go ahead.
But Jack, this is the weird thing about it. Is like there's certain things and certain ways that people act that seem really normal and feel normal that overlap with stuff that is totally not normal.
Right, exactly. I mean, it just. Well, we'll get onto it, but the Moses guy sends a note down, a letter asking Michael if he can mail it. It's David Burton in Sydney, Australia. Of course, it had to be Sydney, Australia.
Of course,
it had to be. Yeah, I think it's Lindelof just saying, "Yeah, make it Sydney, Australia."
And he's like, let's throw him a bone.
Yeah, let's just. And I'm like, I go, are they setting up a swap meet? Is it a swap meet? Is it a flea market? Whatever you want to call it, but it's the town of Miracle. And Jordan Springs water, and here comes a full bus load of tourists coming to see the mirror, and they're just like, oh.
And by the way, the first confirmation that we have of the name of the town or the place, Miracle, Texas, is the souvenir stand, right?
Right.
The t-shirts, yeah.
So it's like, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I mean, this is a prototypical American story, so there has to be some sort of a capitalist, message here.
Well, you got people dying to get in there, and you have to have a wristband to live there.
We don't know that yet.
Well, we don't, but we see later on. Well, we'll talk about that later on.
But what stand was Michael was he directed to? He was directed to
I don't
121.
121.
Which Adam, if you subtract 13 adds up to 108.
But it's the question from guest 121. Do you think they went to a better place?
Oh. Wow, Ethan.
Now,
5 points at least.
I got to give you 5 points for that.
What are you saying, Ethan?
121 is the booth that Michael is given to go to.
Okay.
Booth, and that's
it was the booth number. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I heard 121, and I figured that meant something. I even wrote it down, but I didn't go there.
Oh, that's very interesting, especially with the conversation that takes place later.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Ethan, gosh.
Nice, Ethan. That's why we keep you on the show, Ethan. Let's see. John talks with Isaac, even though the people are, hey, buddy, there's a line. And
that's okay. I'm just going in.
And then Isaac offers him lemonade. They've known each other since the 3rd grade. John says, you got someone living upstairs? It's going to be a fire code. Now, do we ever find out who's living upstairs?
Well... yeah.
Technically.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about it in like a half hour. Go ahead.
Okay, all right.
I got you.
Then John wants a reading. He puts his hand in the paint, makes a perfect thing, and then Isaac goes, "Uh-oh, something bad's going to happen to you." I don't want to tell you that, but something bad's going to happen to you. And John's like, "Okay, yeah, whatever. I've known you since the 3rd grade. You never told me you had any powers or anything like that."
I think that is not ideal, is what he said.
Yeah, because I think I think John is not a believer. Would we agree on that?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, Isaac was like, "Something's bad going to happen to you," and he said, "Well, shit, Isaac, that is not ideal." And it gave me Patty vibes. And
I was really
say, that's a great point. Yeah.
Exactly the way that you delivered it. You channeled your inner Patty right there.
All right, you get 5 points there.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
There you go. But yeah, I didn't even think about that. That is like a Patty vibe. Good job. Mm-hmm. I do like he says, "Be careful when he leaves." John's
okay, let's break down this scene. What was amazing to me about this, and I felt this way the first time I watched it. I felt it when I watched it about a little earlier today. Is I'm watching these people have this conversation, and I'm thinking, I have no idea what this has to do with season 1 leftovers or what's coming the rest of the season, but this is so intense. And you just I'm trying to read between the lines, between the relationship between these two, and we have no idea what John's role is. And it's just like, are they speaking code? I have no idea, but this is amazing.
Well, I think to piggyback what Caleb said, he's a talking Patty, right? He just does, I just never thought about that. That's great.
I mean, I don't think we can overlap the two characters, beyond that reaction there. I would say he's closer to, or he's more different from Patty than he is closer to other characters.
Well, I think, but I think what Caleb was saying made sense. I mean, I never thought about him being Patty-like there.
Well, he kind of maybe like Patty from the diner scene, right?
I think it's more of his bluntness, like
Right.
Patty's bluntness.
Yeah.
Like, well, shit, that's not good news. That's something
Yeah.
Patty would say.
Patty would say, yeah.
And so I don't know if the characters are necessarily alike, but I think that they both come across with this kind of bluntness that kind of comes out sometimes.
Right.
You know, especially when
and they're not afraid to say. They're not afraid to be.
Yes.
They're not. They don't care about your feelings.
Right. Yeah. I mean, which the guy wasn't telling John what the news was, and so. But did you notice that his name was Isaac, and also Rose and Bernard, and on Lost went to go see Isaac of Uluru in Australia.
Take 2 points away from him for that one, for reaching.
They're both like psychics, and both named Isaac. It's got to be a call out.
Eckhart, you lose 2 points for that comment.
If Sydney, Australia is a shout out, then that has to be.
I'm going to try to shoot the moon today.
And Evie.
Because it's like, let me ask you guys this: like, as you guys are watching that scene in its entirety, like, and divorcing yourself from the rest of what you know about Leftovers, like, what was your impression of John at the end of that? Like, for me, like, it's like really unclear, like, if he's like on what side of good and evil he's on, right?
He's really creepy. And later, the conversation with him and Kevin is so awkward,
right?
And it's just like you feel that now, you know, like you said, Eckhart with him and Isaac. It's almost like, are we rooting for him? It seems like there's this underlying, like, there's some animosity there. You know, you pick up on something.
He's angry about something. Again, then that kind of can go back to Patty.
The cricket.
He's got some issues, right?
Yeah.
And the conversation starts out so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fire marshal bit works so well.
Right.
That you're kind of like, okay, cool. Oh, you want to see what he does. Oh, you're not going to be satisfied with anything he says.
Right.
You're just clocking him.
Well, but then Isaac says his birthday. Your birthday's tomorrow or something. And then John's like, it is. And you think, oh, he's starting to like believe what Isaac is saying. But then they twist that right up and go the opposite way.
And that's why that scene was so amazing. It's just like you are so unbalanced watching that.
You think that John? I hate to get ahead of myself here. You think the reason he destroyed the house was because he was worried that Isaac did have powers?
We have to get into that later.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Then we go to singing girls in a gym. They're singing "Miracle." God has spared our town.
I love this scene.
I've been listening to the song a lot this week. I don't know if you guys know. I sent you some videos. You know, the lyrics tell a whole story within themselves, and it's you know, it's a thing to get into a little bit later. But it sounds beautiful, and this is the most beautiful it's going to sound this season.
And it's the first time we're told, I mean, directly this time, but we, you know, unless we're paying attention, we don't notice it, what actually happened, right?
Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But then,
this scene has always bothered me because does it not irritate you a little bit that when they're singing, they say, they say something to the effect of like, while everybody else was around, you know, running with like a chicken with his head cut off or whatever, we were doing just fine. Right. And they were talking about while others met with frustration and I was kind of like, that's rude. Like everybody else is devastated. Why are you singing?
Well, I think it's that in your face mentality now.
Well, but it's also the pride that comes with salvation, right? And
well, they're having to profit their town, like you said, capitalism.
Well, not just that. I'm thinking even deeper.
They think they're like the chosen ones.
Exactly, and this is where let's take a step back here. Like Caleb, we know that you're an atheist, right? But I have a feeling that was part of your upbringing in in Christian religion?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm counting on you to shed some light on some of this, because, I mean, Ethan mentioned this before, that like this season they got like a lot of like, they've got a lot of advice in terms of, you know, the religious angle, right? So that, to me, like when I'm watching this, I'm thinking more in terms of like these people in their town really view themselves almost like the survivors of the rapture.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And that with that comes like a lot of praise, and it's a different spin on this in the sense that, you know, again, season 1 we were seeing how different people dealt with the departure differently, right here.
Right.
And here, this group, it thinks that they were chosen by God to survive the departure, right? That it's almost like the inverse of the usual term of the rapture, which is God, you know, selects people and lets them, you know, evolve and leave this plane, right? But
Right.
I think they've taken that concept and spun it on their head, saying God saved every single one of us in this town and saved us from what they're singing in the song, right?
Right.
True. Mm-hmm.
The big takeaway is they're being pricks about it.
Yeah.
They're being big pricks about it. They're singing the song,
but they don't care.
But
Yeah.
as Caleb will tell us, that's part and parcel with
Sure,
that whole
I mean,
dispensationalism and
you
people
make
that
it-
believe in the rapture, right?
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point that it's a lot of pride for them. I mean, at a young age, like I honestly thought that God had chosen me to slay the sin of homosexuality.
how's that going?
It did not work. Never did. Oh God, that's so funny.
That's okay. I mean, you know, he allowed you to depart from that path.
Yes, I had my own
but as we see the girls singing, though, because Evie's even laughing. It's like, you know, can you believe? It's almost like she said, "Can you believe the words of this song that we're singing?" And the girls are like, whatever. It's like the town song that they have to sing, but the girls are like, this song, this is a joke.
So, but that's the thing. Like, see how you contrast that to what did we see in the first episode of season 1? How those teenagers in Maplewood acted, right?
They weren't real happy, were they?
So anyway, then it kind of jumps around. We have the girls running through the woods naked, and we're like, okay, what the hell happened here? What's going on here? And then when they come back, Evie is pitching to John, softball pitching to John, and tells him a knock knock joke.
What did the one pencil say? The other pencil smells like carrots.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. She said, but
everybody pay attention to the knock knock joke if you're watching this. We'll come back later and it's fun.
Yeah, but
it's knock knock. Who's there? A broken pencil.
But I can remember watching, going, okay, we go from the singing to the naked girls to the pitching.
Yeah.
What is this really happening? Are they really running through the woods naked? Were they singing? Was she pitch? What is going on?
And now, as we're watching this again straight through, I'm sure all of us were thinking about the contrast between, you know, what Kevin and Jill went through most of season 1 in terms of slipping away, and the relationship that John has with his daughter, which is, you know, seems to be much more sound, right?
Right, it does, yeah.
Did you notice that he even tells Michael, I think he's like, be back by 10, but he tells Evie, be back by 11.
All right.
So there's a good indicator of that, which it could have just been like a weekday, weekend situation, but yeah.
Or he plays favorites. Let me see firefighters walking. John's one of them. And they all say, what do you think, a 2, a 3, a 2, a 3? I don't know. And then John goes 5, and they go, come on, John, a 5? And so we now know that 5 in the numbers is bad, right?
Yeah.
5-alarm fire.
Oh. I didn't get that at that time.
Say that again?
A 5-alarm fire.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Good. Oh, wow. I don't feel like giving you a point, but that was good. I like it, though. But then they go to Isaac's house, and he tells Isaac to leave. Isaac, I'm not leaving. You can't make me leave. You cannot make me leave. And then you see,
and he
says, F you, Lori.
Yeah.
To,
but John says to him, Isaac says, "I don't understand," and John,
Yes,
you understand.
You do understand. That's in my notes too.
And Isaac says something important to us, the viewers, to understand. He tries to defend his stake by saying he was here since the beginning, right?
Right.
To really differentiate himself from the people that came, right? And obviously he's making a reference to the fact that John has, basically suspicious of anybody who arrives who's new, right?
Right.
Which we see for the rest of the season, the rest of the episode.
Which I guess that would be, wouldn't you be suspicious of new people? I mean, if you lived in a town where nobody departed, now you have these people that want to come there. They want to come to this town because nobody departed. I would be a little suspicious too.
Right.
I might not be like John. I'm not going to burn your house down.
I got something to say on the end on this.
Well, then, before you say something, I'll just throw out that I thought that it was interesting that in season 1 they took, and I spoke about this before, that they took a profession such as, being a policeman, and then they analyzed it in sort of a way that Kevin was abusing his power. And here you have a firefighter, which is another, high, job that is honorable or whatever. And here John is abusing his power too. And I was like, ooh, here's a similarity with him and Kevin.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if they did that on purpose or not. But.
Yeah, I thought that was.
But obviously the townspeople know it that he's doing it.
Yeah, I don't think it's the same as Kevin. Yeah. And using information we have later in this episode, I'll just say what I was going to say now. John's been away. John comes home. They give John the job of fire chief, but mob boss. Right. They give him that job because obviously this town is being ransacked and taken advantage of left and right, and they need someone from the outside that's still part of the town to come in and clean effing house.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just have to imagine what kind of horrible things were happening in that town from people coming.
Well, like they said, they have a sign there: you can't take the water.
Right. And they said, and what did they spray on it? No fair, something like that.
Right.
Incidents.
So, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I see what you're saying. I must not be remembering something that happens later on. So I apologize to viewers for that connection that doesn't make sense now.
It's definitely a connection that's there. Just thinking about it, like if anyone's seen Mystic River, you got Sean Penn. Who's seen that? Anyone? Like Sean Penn in that movie, he's like runs the town, but they don't ever talk about,
Smalls is in that movie from.
And what makes this even more fascinating, Ethan, is that the town itself seems to be surrounded by or almost protected by the federal government as well, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that the federal government basically looks the other way when the head of the fire department burns down people's houses tells you something again about like the weirdness of the world that's happening here, right? But it is. I mean, I was thinking about obviously the difference between how Kevin and John wield power in the scene and how Kevin was actually much more restrained, right? I mean, think about like the way that he reacted when the FBI agent told him he could clean up the GR mess, right? There would never be a GR in Jarden with John around, right?
No.
But I mean, even John, even the other firefighters was like, "Are you sure this is a level 5? Are you serious?" Like, I felt like he did go too far in that moment. They threw him out the window. He wasn't
it was personal. It was personal to John,
right? That's why.
And also, Isaac was getting a following. There was lots of people there, and I think there were a couple people there waiting. John wouldn't have showed up, but because obviously for a while Isaac has had a line out of his,
Well, like you said, Eckhart, he would never allow the GR.
Yeah.
To get a hold. Yeah. In there.
Yeah.
In the town.
Thank God they stuck.
Well, they throw him through the window, and then we see the next scene is Erica's pulling. She's a nurse, and she's pulling glass out of his face.
I think she's a doctor.
She's a veterinarian, isn't she?
Is she a veterinarian?
No, I thought she was a doctor.
Or a doctor. She's definitely a doctor. Yeah.
I apologize. I remember nurse, but I stand corrected.
Jack.
She's a doctor. I lose 10 points.
Yeah, there you go.
Get woke, Jack.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
Ethan, I'm going to need you to just go ahead and admit that you hate women.
As I was told on Lost Twitter this week, I hate women, and I should.
I never saw. I looked for it. I couldn't find it.
All right.
He told me that I had to say this. So I was trying to pick a time to say it.
People like me on Twitter. I don't know what it is. Sorry, Ethan.
I told him it shouldn't be in the church. Let's move on.
Well, that he tells and I'm throwing me out. He tells Erica basically, did John tell you what happened? Just be careful whatever he said. Anybody remember the lines? I can't find it, and I got thrown off.
Like if you should have seen it coming.
She said, if you are who you say you are, then you should have saw this incident coming.
That's what Erica says to him, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But he said something to her, and he
said,
about it.
I've lived here all my life. I was, born here or whatever. I think that's when he was like, I'm staying or whatever.
Yeah, because Erica seems to be okay with what John did.
Which is really annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, it did bring her a patient, and she makes money off it. So just keeps it in the family business. Am I right? But then we see she wakes up the next day and she puts in hearing aids because you can see the hearing aids when she's pulling the glass out. She's running, she's sprinting. She's a great runner. She does a lot of, because if you've ever seen her in Southland, she does a lot of running in Southland. But she digs up a box and it's got a baby bird in it. And I'm like, well, why would you keep a baby bird in a box? Like, that's not. But she's happy it's alive. She just seems okay. It's alive. Everything's still good because it's alive. Then the bird flies away. She's like, okay, good.
Two things here. One, I was watching with subtitles the last time, and you can really see her annoyance when she puts in her hearing aids and she can hear John snoring after she couldn't hear him snoring.
Oh.
Like John snoring, and like the thing comes up and says John snoring on the subtitles, and you see her face, and it's like fire. And also, this run definitely echoes Kevin's run in the pilot.
Yep, thinking the same.
She didn't have gray sweatpants though.
Yeah, and she wasn't looking for cigarettes either.
No, she was looking for a bird.
Yeah.
But then we come back and John's looking for the cricket again, right? Mm-hmm. And then John says, "I want to go to church," and she goes, "Really?" He goes, "I can go to church. Let's go with the family. I want to go." And then his son is doing a sermon. I guess he's not. Is he doing a sermon or just leading a prayer? I don't know.
He's doing a reading.
A reading. Okay, thank you. And
just happens to go very well with pointing out the hypocrisy of what his father does.
Yeah.
Well, he is the opposite, right?
He was speaking to him.
Yeah.
And then
Michael, another positive religious person in the Leftovers.
And then we see they say the survivors, which is right behind Ethan there. You can see 9,261 people lived here and they didn't depart, were spared. And then as he sits down, when Michael sits down, there's a banner behind him, and it says they. Oh God, I can't read my writing. They bathe. I can't. Does anyone write it down?
I didn't write it down. There's lots of water stuff back there.
Yeah, but it was a water thing on the banner. It was directly behind what I can't read. And they bathe. We're down into the water. I don't know. I apologize. I can't read my writing.
If it mentions water, we probably need to go back and look because it may be relevant.
Yeah. Anyone that wrote, did you write it down?
I'll go look right now while you guys talk.
Anyway, so then we find out that the pastor, the minister, the reverend, whatever he is going to leave. He's got to get hip replacement surgery, and there's going to be a new guy in town. And who is it? It's Matt Jameson.
We finally see somebody that we've seen before.
Yeah, it's like, and this is like 30 minutes into it, right?
And as Jay called him on the original podcast, Matt Nathanson.
Oh, did he?
Way more than once. That's for you, Eckhart.
Laura's signing off. Okay, well, have a good night, Laura.
All right, yeah, Laura, tune in tomorrow. We got the spoiler section is going to be amazing.
But so Matt gets up there. He does some talking. He says Mary and all that. He talks about Mary. Mary's just like going, why am I here? Right?
And I love how the priest cuts him off.
Yeah, but then you see John looks at, and the other firefighters look at each other like,
That was weird.
Or do we need to burn this guy's house down?
Would you like to know what it says on the on the back of the church?
Yes.
The banner?
Yes.
First one says his blessing covered the dry land as a river and watered it as a flood.
Okay.
From Ecclesiastes 39:22. And the other one said, and they both went down into the water.
Both went down to the.
Wow.
Yeah, I could not read that word. Both went down to the water. All right. And when that comes into, anyway, spoiler alert. But then you have the at the end they're shaking hands, and then of course John, very blunt. So what brings you to town? And he goes, "Hi, Mary." Very, very. He's almost like a politician, right? Or like a salesman. He's very.
Well, he's basically the mayor of the town.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but he acts like a politician.
Yeah, I mean that's probably how most strongmen act.
But
That's probably how most Central Asian dictators act.
But is he there? Is he there because he thinks that Isaac might have said something of truth? That something bad going to happen? Is that why he decided to go today?
Church.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, I think he was. I think there's that, and he may have had a little bit of guilt, and I think he especially did when Michael kind of like looked at him during the thing he was saying.
But he goes, "Well, what brings you here?" And he goes, and then he goes, "Well, I'm from New York." And he goes, "Of course, like you're an outsider."
The city, I figured.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah, you're definitely an outsider. I knew that. And he goes, "This place is miracles. Why? What did he say when he cut you off?" And then he tells him. But John he's just very. It's almost like Kevin when he's interrogating somebody, but he's not. He's a firefighter, not a cop, right?
Yeah, but John is just so much, at this point in time at least, so much more secure and confident, right?
Right.
I mean, that's where I guess, I hate to give Caleb too much credit on this, where he is more like Patty in the sense. Like, he has more of that just...
That's why I agreed with Caleb when he said it, because it made sense.
Yeah, I know.
Eckhart, 30 minutes later, Caleb, I do agree with that. I've come around.
I like Caleb a lot, but I don't want to agree with everything. Right? No, but we're all in agreement that he's just much more confident.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you have
Kevin ever was.
Right. Well, Kevin thinks he's going crazy.
But before that, even like he was, having to fight the mayor, he was having to fill his dad's shoes. He had to. He was always being undermined by Lou.
Yeah. F you, Lou.
I mean, look at John. He's just like you said. Like he's like, sometimes he shows up at church and they're like, "Oh, we haven't seen you in a while." And he's like, "No, I come here once in a while," and they're like, "Oh, yes, you do." He just has that level of,
because they're afraid of John, but they're not afraid of Kevin.
Yeah, he can intimidate.
Right.
Well, in the next scene when they're at the diner, that's the same thing that Patty did. They were both rude to the waitress.
Yeah, because
there's another.
That's the next thing I was going to say. It's probably one of the most bizarre scenes in this series, because you have John, the family. It's after church you go to breakfast. And he goes, "I wanted my bacon on a separate plate." Oh, okay. And then Evie goes, "That's kind of rude." She goes, "Well, you say that every week." He goes, "Well, maybe they should listen."
See, and I feel like this is that typical thing that you always hear about, that you always hear waiters complain about on Sundays, is that they always hate the church crowd because they're some of the rudest people ever who don't tip and whatever. And
because they gave all their money to the church.
A cult. And so and it's kind of like, if you're going to go to church and then just be rude to somebody as soon as you're out, why are you going to church? You're not fooling anybody. John's not fooling anybody. John shouldn't have went. John's not about that.
Let's be fair. Sometimes those sermons are long.
Why does he need bacon on the extra plate, though? What's his reasoning?
Because him and Erica are butting heads, and Erica won't give him the bacon. So that's his only way to get the extra.
Right.
Yeah, but she's right there.
So he's throwing it in her face.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of that with them.
she's a doctor and would know that bacon is bad for you. I'm like a nurse who wouldn't know, right? I'm kidding. But then some guy walks in, bringing a goat.
Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry. And I'm like going, what the hell is he doing with that damn goat? Lays the plastic down, slits the goat's throat.
Blood doesn't go anywhere near the plastic.
And the lady, some lady takes a picture with her phone. Everyone's like going, oh, Jerry. It's just like, it's a normal occurrence. That's what happens.
And that's exactly what I was saying in a nutshell. This, like, you have this, like, complete normalcy and this complete craziness inhabiting the same existence, and like extreme normalcy and extreme craziness coexisting.
But then he drags it back out, leaves the blood, and then she asks for somebody, Enrique to come clean it up. Again,
this is
this guy with the goat.
That's what I was like. Is the restaurant really having to clean this up? Why?
It's going to hurt it would have to hurt because you go in a restaurant, you see the grade A, B, that would have to hurt the grade, right?
Not here. No. They probably get A++.
John's in charge of that too.
This is from the book, actually. This is a book thing.
Oh, really?
Yes. Nora saw this on her bike rides in the book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But then we go to some comedy. We have is it John's watching TV, right?
Perfect Strangers.
Perfect Strangers, and Mark did not depart.
Mark Limbaker. And this is the first time they introduced that concept too, right?
Yeah. Right. That he faked it. Yeah. Why would you fake it? He's trying to speak Spanish.
No, Mark, esta no es.
Oh my God! But then he gets up. He's eating some ice cream, and then he drops the spoon down the garbage disposal. But he's hesitant to go up. Yeah, to go into the garbage disposal.
Well, he does stick his hand in there, right?
He does, but he's not happy about it.
I thought Michael did.
Michael does eventually.
Michael comes
John
eventually.
Does first
because Michael comes up behind him, scares him, and he pulls his. He goes, I dropped my spoon, and he goes, I'll get it. And he pulled the spoon out.
And the thing is, he's never thinking anything will happen to someone he loves. He's only thinking something will happen to him.
Right.
Oh, okay. So this ties into the whole Isaac prediction.
I would think so, yeah, because nobody wants to get their hand caught in the garbage disposal.
But
I was thinking more of like he was taking it as a leap of faith, which is very, very small on his part because he's not about that, like I said earlier.
I mean, they did a great job in terms of really prolonging that scene and with the background music. What's that, Ethan?
I was thinking that to Ro.
Yeah. Oh. But but then you have Michael goes, I'm going to go bring Moses some food. And he goes, other people feed him. He goes, yeah, but he likes mom's cooking. Mm-hmm. So he goes, yeah, is that when he said be home by 10? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then he goes for his bike ride. Then he sees people being tased and kicked out. I mean, we want to come in. No. They're being tased and forced out. Now, shouldn't John be there doing just like setting fire to the cars?
But this is some Checkpoint Charlie shit right here. Right? Yeah. There's like towers and fences,
barbed wire.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Ethan, I think you had a great point earlier when you said that John allowed Michael to reach in without even like a be careful or, I'll do it. I'll find it eventually. So that they're kind of planting the seeds like that. Michael's a little more mature than his father, and he may be having to maybe grew up on his own a little bit, or maybe more self-reliant, whereas his dad is not got all. He's not all together.
But he's also Michael has faith. He believes he's very religious, so he believes he'll be saved and all that stuff. So that could be different there too.
I do
Michael
like.
Probably knows you can turn off a disposal if John doesn't.
I do
Alexa, turn off disposal.
I do like Ethan's idea of John at this point in time, at least, not really caring about what happens to other people. That he's so self-centered in that sense, and that again, contrast this to season 1 Leftovers. Kevin would never let one of his kids, stick their hand down there.
Right.
I mean, just, he bends over backwards for them.
Right.
Well, I know we're about to get to it, but like that's a great point because even the pie they discuss may have poison, and what does he do? He pawns it off to the new neighbor. So that's a great point that like he doesn't even know, and he's just
because
not
again,
caring.
the new neighbors are outsiders,
Mm-hmm.
so he doesn't like. You got to wonder too. Did they ever discuss how many people, once word got out that nobody departed from this area, how many people tried to get just flooded into this town when it first happened? I mean, you would think
That's why they got the barbed wire now.
Yeah, you figured that's why they had to get federal government involved to keep people out.
Yeah.
And again, like you were saying, I think it was Ethan said that you had to have someone like John laying down being the godfather, laying down the law that's saying, we'll go to the extremes to keep you out.
And this is kind of probably a stretch, but given what we've seen in season 1, the way that the federal government dealt with cults,
Right.
they were probably all too happy to clamp down and regulate all of this.
Yeah.
Because it was never discussed, but you could imagine that all sorts of, cults forming there. And then they kind of do outside the gates, right?
They do, yeah.
Oh, we don't even see that now, though. We see that next week mostly.
Yeah.
Right. But then Michael gets on his bike again and he goes to a house out in the middle, seems like out in the middle of nowhere. And gentleman opens the door and he goes, "Do you want to pray?" And he goes, "Yes." We don't know who this guy is now, but we know later on. Spoiler.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that Michael did not mention that he's going to go see this person.
That's true.
No, he didn't.
No.
Yeah, we have no idea who he is.
Okay.
I think I kind of guessed it.
Yeah.
But then that's when John finds the pie, and I got to tell you, that pie looked really good.
Yeah.
I love apple pie, and that looked like homemade apple pie. I was like, man, that looks good. This whole episode made me hungry. They had Erica was cooking the ribs. You had the cake. You had the pie.
The hawk eggs,
Hawk egg. Well, yeah, hawk eggs.
Snake.
As long as you eat them raw, they're perfect.
Everyone around here is eating cicadas right now, so this was a welcome change.
And then we finally see, because John's on the porch with the pie, and he's looking around going, okay, who's trying to put, and he's got to be thinking, okay, he is the heavy of the town. There's got to be someone that might not like him, and someone just leaves a pie in your doorstep. That could be poison in there. He's got to be thinking that. So he's not wrong to think that, but like you said, Caleb, he says, okay, yeah, someone else take it. But we see Nora, Kevin, and Jill, and Lily for the first time.
Hi, friends.
Yeah.
New haircuts.
Yeah, and they wave to each other, or John waves to Kevin.
Greatest leftovers gift of all time.
Yeah.
Kevin's already slowly walking into the house
Kevin's out of it. I tell you what.
Yeah. And that jumped at me too, Ethan. Like the Kevin we're seeing here is more like, what I'll call side character Kevin, right?
Yeah.
Where he's not the one who we're seeing it from his perspective, right?
Right.
The one who's really unbalanced, right?
And we get that 2 or 3 times a season.
Yeah.
Like where he's a side character, and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then John goes next door. Brett comes in. Him and Erica talk about the pie, and then he goes next door. I'm going to invite them for the barbecue.
He's real nosy. He's so nosy. He's wanting to know Matt's secret. He's wanting to know what the neighbors are up to.
That's it. But isn't that his job?
I know, but
it's his job, and he does it.
He likes to do it too.
That's what I'm saying. He's like, oh, I got to get in here and find out exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
But he's also kind of open about, which is surprising near the end, that he opens up about something serious, regarding his life. So it's like he's being nosy, but he's also not revealing things to other people.
Right.
He's also planting a flag with them too.
And Nora is a different person.
Yeah,
she's completely different, because even in this, we'll get to the scene later on. But hi, this is Lily. She has a purpose again. Mm-hmm. She has, maybe not so much Kevin, but Lily is what has saved her.
Yeah.
And she just seems like a different person. So we'll see if we can make it. And then Michael says hi to Jill when they come over. And then Evie asks Lily. I'll clean this up. She asked Lily. Evie asked Jill if Lily was adopted. or did you know?
Your mom have a black dude.
She goes, "Oh no, that's she's not my mom."
Yeah.
Or something like that. And they kind of laughed, but Evie and Erica and Nora talk, and that was a great conversation. And Nora's again, she just seems different. She just is very,
but
she's guarded. She's guarded, but she's.
And they always have to mention how ridiculously, annoyingly handsome Justin Theroux is.
Yeah.
For no reason, and she's like, "Oh, he moisturizes."
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's telling and showing.
Yeah,
we didn't know that he's good looking. Yeah. Like we had to hear it again that he's good looking.
But let's rewind just a little bit. That I thought one of the purpose of that scene with Evie making that off-color comment about the baby was to show just like the place that Jill's in.
Right.
Like even though Jill is not as prominent this season, they're showing that like she's at a level that is much more stable.
Right. Because she even laughed it off.
Yeah.
And she's happy with it. She was playing with Lily and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point. And then Kevin and John talk, and John's what do you say? There's not more people here. I thought it was a birthday party. He goes, we don't have any friends. Which is probably true.
Yeah.
And they show that later in the season, like a couple times.
And then we get a weird scene again where John, Kevin wants to put the beer in the refrigerator. Hey, you want one? He goes, I don't drink.
God, that scene is like so cringe, awkward. I mean, it's supposed to be, but it's like.
Kevin goes,
I want to know if Eckhart noticed anything specific in this scene when Kevin's looking at the couch.
Well, that's what we get. Kevin is caught staring at the couch.
Well, I was thinking about that, and I should go back and rewind it, but all right, I'm going to say it. There's a famous couch scene in Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
he might have been referencing.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I won't go into more detail of that, but that was that's the first thing that came to mind as an homage to that. But I thought the more relevant purpose was just to show that Kevin's off balance. He's incredibly off balance. What I love about the scene with the beer and John making the cake is just you have these two incredibly awkward, strong men, just trying to read each other out.
Well, we also have Kevin. We know that he does things when he sleeps, or things happen when he goes to sleep.
Right.
And we also see Erica has where she checked out. I mean, she says the mom, Erica. Evie checks out, or because Erica said, "Did you go away again? That's what you have epilepsy. Take your pills."
Right.
Does Kevin have similar? Was it similar what he was doing? Because he just floated away. It's like he left. It's like he left that area, like Erica. She said, "Did I leave? Did I leave?" And she said, "Yeah."
Erica says, "Come back to me, baby."
Right, and Kevin almost does the same thing.
You go, Ethan, then I'll go.
I was just gonna say I forgot what I was gonna say. You go.
Well, I was gonna say Jack. That's a nice observation because up until this point in time, with Kevin's nighttime escapades, right? We're not sure. If it's a medical condition or not, right?
Right.
So this could be the first time the writers are kind of telling us maybe it is a medical issue, right?
Right.
So I like that.
Yeah, all I was going to say was season 1 ended on a note of hope, but the last thing we see Kevin before he runs into that house is he has a massive hallucination dream.
Right.
And that part of what's going on with Kevin is not in fact wrapped up in any way at the end of the season.
Right.
Because even when he comes out, he's like, "Wait, what? Huh? What?"
Yeah.
He had no idea that he blanked out.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And you think John would have picked up on it, seeing that Evie does it all the time, that maybe there's something.
He's a distant father, I think.
Yeah.
That could be it too. Then Erica tells a funny story about the two kids, about the bathtub, and it's not just a funny story, but I think it describes both their characters. Mm-hmm. Where Evie's takes chances, and whereas Michael's very okay. I live by this code. Where Evie's like, whatever happens. I'm all in for adventure.
Now, Ethan, you can probably explain this. Are they supposed to be unidentical twins?
I don't know.
Because
They're twins, though, right?
They're twins. Yeah.
Yeah, twins. Okay, because I mean,
But they're twins. They're months apart.
What?
I think they're a couple months apart.
Yeah, I think one was born early, right? Premature.
Yeah. And they explained that. I don't know.
Spoiler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Jack, we do get a set of twins in season 2, I guess.
There you go. There's your twins.
I have much to say about this conversation after the thing.
Okay, but then I like where they're talking, and then
Circle back.
John goes, "Yeah, I was in prison."
Yeah, no, he's planting a flag. He's telling them who he is and what he's about.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, okay." But see, this is where Nora is different. Nora,
Yes.
season 1, Nora would have said, "Well, what were you in for?"
Yes.
She would have been direct. He said, "Oh, it doesn't matter." Where
Absolutely.
Kevin goes, "What'd you do?"
She's like, oh, that's none of our business. And
Yeah.
I was like, this is not Nora.
No, that's not
Nora
the
would have
Nora we
been like, tell me the story.
I got someone who's in prison living next door to me. What did you do?
Mm-hmm.
And he was in there. He goes, "Oh yeah, I was 6 years, 119 days." For what? Attempted murder. He goes, I didn't do a good enough job or something like that. Is that what he said?
Mhm.
So, and then, like you said, Nora's like, kind of flaky about it.
And does Kevin offer up here that he's in the police? No.
No, that surprised me too. Like,
No, I think it's almost smart. I don't think he trusts John.
Well,
I don't think they trust each other. And I think the best thing when you don't trust someone is not to give them information.
correct.
You want to keep it,
that's why I keep my mouth shut on these talks.
That's good. That's good. You should. But we already know all about you, so it doesn't matter. Then we have Edie comes out. They're going to sing happy birthday. She drops the cake, and she goes into a seizure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Erica says, "Come back, baby. Come back, baby. Come back, baby." And I think I had a theory that she was trying to depart in the original one. Back in the day. I think it was my theory back in the day. But then
Points off for that.
Huh?
Take some points off for that.
I know, but it's old. I don't think can you get penalized 7-8 years later?
Well, we were
There's
just
no
talking
statute of
about
limitations.
we were just talking about things you shouldn't say.
Yeah.
That was
All right.
probably one of them.
I'll take 10 points off. All right. But then Nora goes, "Hey, we got the pie you got us," and John's like,
Great.
"Oh, great,
It's like
poison
I'd rather-
pie on my birthday."
Oh, I didn't want to poison.
But I was ashamed they didn't actually show them eat it.
I know.
Because it did look.
Let the mystery be.
I mean, I would at this point. I put my pie in the refrigerator. I like my pie cold.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just me. A lot of people like it warm. I like it cold. They go get the pie. They saying goodbye, and that's awkward too. Where Kevin goes to shake saying goodbye, and he just kind of pulls them back. And they have a little,
It's just getting to know you better, Kevin.
And then Evie gives her dad a present. It says, "Can't open it till I leave."
Yes.
Nice foreshadowing.
Yeah. And then they're sleeping. The ground starts shaking. Things are just falling over left and right. And he goes to so stand in the door frame. He tells Erica and Michael that's like the worst. That's a myth. You shouldn't stand in the doorway, from what I've heard, because the door can come flinging around and slam into you.
Well, once again, John doesn't know how to parent. So I guess I'm
Well,
doing with him
to be-
what we do with Lori.
To be fair to John, though, that a lot of people say you're supposed to get into a door frame,
No, you're right.
but that's just, I guess it's a myth. That's what I was.
Oh my
always
God!
told.
Even Juliet was like, "Get in the doorway, get in the doorway."
Yeah.
If she said it, it has to be true.
Yeah. Well, that was in 2000. That was in 2004. So
Well, I've known this since I grew up in California, so
we can't admit Juliet's done anything wrong. So let's move on.
I grew up in this great country, so I knew. So anyway, Edie's not there. It's 3:00. Where's she at? John calls Edie. She doesn't answer the phone. Taylor's not home either, and Violet is missing too. So all 3 girls who we saw running naked through the woods, we see earlier, they are nowhere to be seen. Michael and John go out looking for Edie. They find the car with music playing, which is odd because when they were driving home, there was no music until they Well, there's silence until they drive up to the house. And then he calls. His phone's laying out there, says Dad. But then Michael goes, Dad, come here. And the water is gone. And the fish are not happy. That's the end of the episode.
And Erica is at home.
And Erica's at home.
Yeah. And a cricket.
Cricket.
Yeah.
That's the end of the episode.
Yeah. So what do we think?
I think
So
it's great.
intense.
The only big thing I wanted to just throw out, because it happens really early on, I feel like we instantly see where Evie is at mentally, and this is spoiler talk. And I feel like we see it when she asks the guy if she pees in the water, will it mess up his measurements? To me, I feel like that she thinks it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a good indicator of what you're doing doesn't mean anything. So she's on this nothing means nothing top kick where the guilty remnant, are following that path or whatever. So I feel like I was like, ooh, right there. She's already,
Everything she does in this entire episode points to that.
pre-planned.
Now, if the water was that important, why were there no guards there against people stealing the water?
It was probably inside the park, right?
Yeah, it's in the park. They made
It's inside the park, but yet they still say you cannot take the water. You think there'd be somebody there other than Happy Lou? What was the guy's name? Goodhart. Dr. Goodhart. I think there'd just be someone there besides him saying, "Hey, put down the water."
I'm gonna push back on what Caleb said. And
Don't do that.
It's because
pushing back on what I said.
because we're seeing this as knowing the full Evie arc, right?
Yeah.
But at this point in time, the more logical deduction would be that she has a close relationship to her father, who's pushing back on everything, who's calling bullshit on everything, right?
Right.
And you can see that I would say the scene that told me how close these two are just when she's practicing the softball pitches, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that one of the final shots in the episode is when he calls and the phone rings, and you see the phone light up, and it says "Daddy" and a picture of the dad, shows that she has a lot of affection for him too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say she probably.
I mean, I think it can be both.
It probably can be both. Why not both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think at this point, since we're in full spoiler talk and we do know what happens, that everything she is doing is in service of what is about to happen. Absolutely everything.
All right, break it down.
Figured this out, but the running through the woods,
well,
that must have been practice. That was all practice.
See, that's the biggest. That's literally the biggest thing in the entire season of this season of Leftovers that I don't have an explanation for that I like.
And we don't know when that actually takes place, right?
No.
It could be at a time. I've heard two theories. One is it's practice, but if it's practice, why are they naked? And two, the other one is they're putting their scent around so search dogs can't look for them.
Oh, that's a good. I was thinking they're naked because the guilty remnant, strip themselves. They may not have their white clothing until they get to their location.
When you depart, you leave your clothes behind. So you'd have to be naked. Right?
No, you don't.
You don't. I don't think so.
You don't?
Nora's family didn't have clothes there.
Yeah.
Remember, it was just the juice dripping off the.
Okay, so I'm wrong.
I'm going to push back on that, Eckhart.
I'm shooting the moon this week.
But you said, Eckhart, you said you saw the most affection in the baseball scene, and I think that when you first watch this, you do.
It's filled with dreams all over again.
If you build it, but if you watch it now, everything, all the contempt she has for her father and everything is in that scene.
Yes,
she's throwing those softballs with such precision and anger. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's hurting his hand. He's getting up. His hand is getting hurt.
I know. I was thinking about that too as I said that.
And And at the end, he's like, I'll make him think that I'm okay by telling him this joke, which is also our sarcastic joke that she got.
Right.
Didn't you get it from Meg, I think?
Yes. She got the joke from Meg. Yeah.
Yeah, she got the joke from Meg. So everything I see her do in this episode is full of anger and spite and hatred for what's going to happen.
Could be, but like you can't deny the fact that she shares that same personality streak in terms of the nihilism, right?
Sure.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Probably.
They're definitely related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I have one. I have my first gripe with Leftovers ever.
Wow. Okay.
And it was a scene that Jack skipped.
Of course, because it bugged me too.
It was the scene that Michael is offering the water to the German tourists.
Oh God, okay, yeah. I mentioned that, and then we never talked about it.
And the actors that are speaking German are not German. They look German, but their German is so bad, and so broken. And I was like, for a production that is so high quality and everything else, that they messed this up, like, just completely shocked me.
Well, their German departed.
What?
They had to relearn how to speak German, so that's what
happened.
That's why they were there, to get the miracle water, so they could speak.
Well, there was some connection there. We were talking about earlier with Michael having that stand of the water, and we were going to mention something about how when that couple comes up, they're saying, oh, will this help us? And he's like, well, it's just a souvenir. And then he's like, but come to my church. And they're like, no, not that. But I forget what we were trying to point out there.
You would think that he only had, like 12 to 15 waters, right? And it wasn't like $50, $100. You can give a dime and you could have the water.
Yeah.
How could he have any left? If these people are just trying to grab everything they can from this town, that water should have been gone like that.
Yeah, it was a strange.
Well, no, I mean, it's like it's in my spoiler note here about how this kind of comes back in season 3, right? With Lori and John, who are doing they're doing these readings for people, right? And they're taking money for them, and then they're shredding the money.
Yeah.
Right? Because people will not accept that things are just happening. They have to pay for them. Because that's the way they have value.
Actually, that's a good point, because that's exactly what that the dude was complaining about.
Yeah.
Because Michael said, you can pay whatever you think's right. And then, of course, they were like, if we pay, more than 100, is that bad? If we pay 1,000, is that going to get us into heaven or not depart? You see what I'm saying?
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Then Michael should have set a price.
But why is John allowing him to do that? Why is Evie getting water for him if they're both so cynical regarding hoopla?
More importantly, why haven't the federal park rangers thrown him out yet for violating that? I mean,
because they're afraid of John.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe that's why Evie. Well, no. When the earthquake happens, isn't there a scene where Michael says, or John says, "Are you sure they always go there?" And Michael was like, "Yeah, they usually go there to the water."
Yeah.
So John may not know, because I was going to say if John knew Evie was going there, then that's why people would.
They're sitting at the breakfast table, and Michael's pouring the water in the test tubes.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean Michael's not doing. Yeah. He's not selling a lie that people are buying. He's offering a souvenir to get people to go to his.
But you're not supposed to take that water.
Well, that's.
So this is where the whole Central Asian dictator analogy comes into place, because usually the family members of the dictator get away with breaking all the rules, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Hey guys, I have some spoilers, or I could do some main points I have.
Whatever you have.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
You don't care about the main points. She tried. Okay, so. First of all, I'll just say I'm not going to do everything, but there's going to be a lot. The lady losing the baby at the beginning, the prehistoric baby, Patty definitely mentions that in International Assassin. She says about an abandoned baby that was given over in the campaign stop. And
the episode that Ro hates.
The episode Ro hates.
Oh
my biggest question is this is the greatest pull off of misdirection in television history. They told us that they were members of the Guilty Remnant within the first 5 minutes of this episode. And no one, I listened to so many podcasts on the Leftovers. I watched so many reviews. No one got it. No one.
What were the specific lines?
There weren't any. It was them sitting in the car silent.
Mm-hmm. And they did it with the music, because the music that you hear playing in the very beginning, there's 2 songs, I believe. One when they're swimming and one when they're driving in the car. And both songs are not being on it's not coming from the car radio. Neither songs are. So it's the misdirection that way. You think the music is going, but you can tell it's just playing. You see what I'm saying? It didn't have that sound it's coming from a car music.
Because they do talk.
They talk with everyone else because they're secret GR, but when they're together, they are silent.
Right.
They are together. They are mocking, doing everything they have to do so everything seems normal before they pull their Memorial Day.
That's why they had Dr. Goodhart there, so they could talk.
And it had the transition of them talking and then music, but it wasn't music from the car, and you still had them there. So that's probably why people didn't pick up on it immediately.
No, good point.
So when we meet the Murphys, Evie's lying about something. Erica's lying. She's planning on leaving John. Michael seems to be the only one that isn't living a lie.
Well, he's seeing his grandfather without talking to Dad.
That's true. I was wrong.
You lose all your points.
You can read a lot by looking at Regina King and Evie's face when that grasshopper first goes off.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? There's so much in that. David Burton, Australia, you know what's going on there. The house that burns down, the top level residents are supposed to be the Garveys.
Oh, yeah, because they said the house burned down, so that's why they had to buy the other one.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, good point.
I forgot about that.
We talked about that. I got like 2 big main points I want to talk about.
All right, go ahead.
The first one is like the Desmond arc at the beginning of season 2 of Lost. We have to wait 3 or 4 episodes before we get past this point in the story, and I always thought that was very interesting. Like the second episode is the Garveys. The third episode we go to Amy and the GR, and only when we reach that 4th episode do we get past this point of Evie being missing.
Mm-hmm.
So very lost of it.
Yeah.
Because that Hatch Desmond stuff just goes on forever till you reach a certain point, and it tells the story from different points of view. And my biggest one is, and I'll try to do this really fast, but it might not be. The story Erica tells at the end, the bathtub story.
I didn't make it out of that. So I wonder what you're going to say.
My big thing is, the alternate title for this episode is The Murphys at Their Best. We're watching the Murphys at their best the day before their departure happens. So we're starting the opposite way. We know everything about these people, and then the bad thing happens.
Right.
But this story she tells becomes the fulcrum because it becomes Michael's big speech in the last episode about how everything she was saying was not the way it was, because her father was gone and she was trying to stop her from crying because she almost drowned. And like, you're seeing the Murphys at their best because they're all able to fall into this pattern they have of looking the best for people by telling the story. My family has this kind of story.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's going to see Michael Jackson when I was 5, We all do it. All the divorced people that are in divorce, we all fall into this happiness of when we were all.
Did Evie even say you tell it differently every time or something like that?
Something like that.
She commented, but they're all laughing, right?
It's like it never gets old.
Right.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So that was, my big. That's the thing I pulled from it. What did you pull from it, Caleb?
Oh, when we were just talking, I had wrote this down that the punchline or whatever at the end was Michael saying, Evie just wanted to see what happened. And I thought that's really interesting because what's Evie doing right now?
Maybe she just wants to see what happens.
She's wanting to see
the
what's
world
happening,
Yeah.
But that was it, man. I thought the Murphys at their best was going to crack your brains open, but I guess not. So.
No, it was fantastic.
Oh no,
observation.
yeah, that's a great point. I kind of wish they would have called it that.
That would have been obvious, though. Do you want to know what the Access Monday is?
Sure.
Sure, you into that?
Yes.
Well, the technical definition.
Access Monday is the access of the world.
Access to the world, but very specifically in shamanism, it's a place where a shaman can commune between his world or her world and the other plane.
Yeah.
And that is, this is technically supposed to be, in a way, Kevin's Access Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I
That's
would
not-
say like it also ties into the whole notion of like extreme normalcy and extreme weirdness coexisting in the same place, right?
Totally.
Yeah, and I mean,
Oh.
look,
I like how it began with an earthquake and then ended with an earthquake. And are we led to believe that the woman who died by the water holding her child was at the same, Jordan Lake or whatever?
I think it was. I think
I think it was, even though they tried to blame it on fracking, right? They say, but it's been going on since beginning of time.
And then Erica mentions, is it her grandmother? She says has said that it's always been magical here or a special place or something.
Right.
So I feel like maybe from that very moment that we got to see on screen within those first 5 minutes, maybe from there, tribes or whoever passed down the story of this, miraculous saving of this child and how it was a miracle. And then it just kind of, the tale went from there.
And I believe there's a pamphlet in the International Assassin Hotel that explains the Jordan Well a little bit. Read that.
All right. Is that it?
yeah, I think so.
And
Fantastic episode. And I can't go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say Evie's full name is Evangeline.
Yeah. Where'd they get that from? And there's a Lily.
No
so
question.
Evangeline Lily.
It's
I didn't
almost
think about that.
names that people have, so they just name them the names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, with Michael and then the Isaac
Yeah.
and John, I guess.
John.
Yeah. And then
Yeah. A couple
who are Evie's friends' name? You said Violet?
It's Violet and
Rose and
Taylor.
Bernard,
Shandy and
Shandy, and
I'll tell you what,
Amanda.
the episode I can't wait for is the one with Erica and Nora kind of going back and forth with each other.
tell me
But
which
we'll
one.
get there soon.
Which one of these episodes do you guys want me to go in completely blind without watching the episode and just come in? I think I can do it.
Oh,
just to see if you can do it without
I
watching.
can do it without watching it.
International Assassin.
Yeah, well, yeah,
International Assassin.
Your favorite one, whichever one that is.
I mean, he watches that once a week. So
Haven't been. Hey guys, you guys should check out Ragnarok on Netflix. That's all I have to say. I was enjoying it.
All right. I will do that. I just finished BSG. So
it's about fracking time you watch something else.
I want to watch it again. I just hate when I finish a show that I like and I go, oh.
Did you watch The Plan?
I've seen The Plan before, but I have not rewatched The
Well,
Plan.
it's part of the cycle, so you should watch The Plan.
I watched is it The Razor? I watched The Razor.
Razor and The Plan.
But I'll watch The Plan, yeah.
They'll get your last little clicks in.
Yeah. Anyway, or I can watch Blood and Chrome on YouTube, which is
Nah. Blood and Chrome's all right.
it's all right, yeah. It's not Caprica bad, so
You think?
anyway. That's all we got.
We're here next week.
We will be back next week for the second episode of the best season of television in the history of television.
Kick in the Where Is My Mind? It'll be great.
All right, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks
Bye.
for joining.